On Friday night, the whole training ground was empty. After all, the Greatest King competition had just ended. Even if they wanted to work hard, the short difference in time wouldn't make a difference. At the start, there were still people on the training ground. When night fell, it became really empty. If it wasn't because of the authorization level of Wang Zheng's Skylink, he would have been chased out of the place. His chest was burning a little. Wang Zheng was shocked initially, followed by joy. It had been a long time since he had news about Bonehead and Charcoal. The next moment, Wang Zheng was in the space of the Rubik's Cube. Seeing the Bonehead in front of him, Wang Zheng was stunned for quite some time. Bonehead was still that Bonehead, but... Cough, cough. Bonehead, why have you shrunk? Instructor Bonehead in front of him was only at the height of Wang Zheng's legs. Master, the main body couldn't be recovered. Feeling the strong will of Master, therefore this split body was created, said the small Bonehead. Wang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm fine. All you needed to do was to recover well. Where did Charcoal go to? Little Bonehead shook his head. We don't belong to the same system. Wang Zheng was also drunk. The truth was he still couldn't understand where Bonehead and Charcoal had come from. Nonetheless, they had been providing him with lots of assistance all along. Master, do you want to undergo training to defeat the Abyss Zerg? There's just enough energy at the moment, said Little Bonehead. Wang Zheng touched Little Bonehead's head very sinisterly. Damn, this feeling was really good. All right, I was still thinking hard about how to go about it. Yes, I will execute it immediately. Following closely behind Little Bonehead, something Wang Zheng was very familiar with appeared. Densely packed red runes swept across and seemed to be gathering data. At this moment, the electricity supply for the training ground in Elite Academy seemed to be depleting. The backup electricity source was activated. However, as it was a weekend, no one noticed it at this moment. However, Wang Zheng suddenly had an ominous feeling. It seems there's something he hadn't clarified clearly. In front of him, Mecha selection menu appeared in front of him. Wang Zheng selected Hercules. Since he was here, he didn't have to think too much about it. It was only over 10 seconds before student Wang Zheng exploded gloriously. He roughly understood the reasons why there were such types of Zergs from the Abyss. The tough and gentle attacks were great counters for the tough mecha used by humankind. The shovel of Hercules couldn't be spun too. Moreover, the performance of this model of mecha couldn't follow up at all. He was close to being whipped like a spinning top. Wang Zheng was also excited. He knew that there wouldn't be disturbances in the Rubik's Cube or exhaustion. The current him was no longer the same as the rookie who had not seen the world. The Phantom King activated. Wang Zheng had lost count the number of times he had been crushed by the Super Zerg, nor knowing how much time had passed. He finally understood one reasoning, and that was learning was a lifelong process. DMN it. He was still wondering what was wrong. The training mode in this place was that he could only leave if he completed the training. This D*MNED characteristic surprisingly still hadn't changed. How the hell was he going to fight this? Was he going to challenge it till the end of the world? That slightly mentally challenged Bonehead too only cared about the start and the end. As for the rest, he didn't care at all. Through this incident, it taught student Wang that he should read the instructions before doing things. He just had to stay calm no matter what he encountered now. This wasn't the first time Wang Zheng encountered it. Moreover, he had more or less acclimatized to it. Although it seemed impossible, since he couldn't go against it, he just had to enjoy it then. He might just be able to find the weakness of this Zerg. Repetition after repetition and explosion after explosion. In the Rubik's Cube, the concept of effectiveness seemed too distant to Wang Zheng, who had always been relatively effective. Outside the cube, he would at least need to rest for a while. However, in this place, he didn't need to rest. He could continue fighting once he had chosen the mech. Various mecha experienced various ways of dying. He had been whipped to death, poked to death, strangled to death, blasted to death. The dying methods covered 360 degrees without any dead angle. Towards the end, Wang Zheng no longer felt anything looking at this Zerg. It was similar to takoyaki. Moreover, he truly could slowly start getting used to the attacking speed and movement patterns of the Zerg. Wang Zheng's battle intelligence was undoubtedly very high. He gradually felt that this Zerg had a certain attacking rhythm. It was just that he couldn't form a better concept of it in the incessant battles. After going through another 100+ battles, Wang Zheng had entered the second crazed period. He was close to feeling hopeless and thought that he would only be relieved of all these when the real bonehead awakened. Just then, Wang Zheng was looking at the super Zerg that was rushing towards him. Suddenly, he felt that this scene was a little familiar. The Zerg was shaking its body. It should be moving slightly left for a short distance before jumping to its right to attack. Just when Wang Zheng had such a thought, he saw the super Zerg suddenly jumped a short distance to the left. After a feinted movement, it quickly jumped to the opposite side rapidly into a blind spot and launched its attack. Subconsciously, Wang Zheng avoided the attack of the super Zerg cleanly for the first time. However, in the next second, the super Zerg made a new movement. Boom, once again he was dead in an explosion. However, Wang Zheng's eyes lit up. It appeared like the torture he had suffered previously weren't in vain. No wonder it didn't give him time to think. Otherwise, the more he thought would also be pointless thinking. Congratulations, Master. You had taken the first step to victory. The voice of Bonehead number 2 sounded across. Wang Zheng thought that he had heard good news from God. Little Bonehead, let me go out and take a break first. I'm sorry, Master, the training once started, cannot be stopped, this is the norm. D*MN, I'm the Master. Listen to me, I'm sorry, Master, there's no such program. As a servant, I feel remorseful. I have decided to self-destruct. Little Bonehead seemed to be really looking a little remorseful. Wang Zheng immediately stopped. D*MN. If you exploded, what would happen to me? Cough cough. Little Bonehead, since you are so strong, can you directly help me analyze its weakness? This should be fine, right? Master, the Rubik's Cube only provides training conditions currently. Wang Zheng had the urge to flatten Bonehead number 2 with his butt, however, forget it. After the experiences of repeated death and memorizing bit by bit the movement habits of the super Zerg, he had found regular movements from its irregularity. Any living organism would have its habits and characteristics similar to the handwriting of a person. Even if you tried to change your handwriting purposely, there would be signs to trace back to in the face of handwriting evaluation. However, remembering these could only prevent the super Zerg from killing him that easily. If he wanted to get out of this misery, he had to kill this super Zerg. Very clearly. How could this be done? Imposter. Even if you cheered 1,000 times saying that practice makes perfect, it would still be useless. However, such hell training was indeed able to allow Wang Zheng to master some techniques. Over this period of time, although he understood the things he experienced in Elite Academy, Tita Star and Hail Cloud Alliance, these experiences had not turned into stronger power. Humans weren't machines and couldn't completely immerse oneself in training. However, in this place, only training was great as at least there was something to do. After experiencing a countless number of failures, Wang Zheng realized a problem. Even if he understood the movement patterns of this Zerg, with his current strength now, one person would still not be enough to win. Unless he understood some almighty power in the Rubik's Cube. However, Ability X required Yuan Qi from the heaven and the earth. Clearly here would not be possible. Bonehead, when would you awaken? Your master was about to be tortured to death by this imposter. Also, what happened to Student Charcoal? It would still be great if you could come out and chat with me. None of you were reliable when the key moment arrived. Some battles were filled with passion while they were also some filled with hopelessness. Wang Zheng especially missed the air outside at this moment. A mission that couldn't be completed was equivalent to being in jail. He could only wait for Bonehead or Charcoal to appear. Grr. No matter how hopeless he felt, Wang Zheng would also not give up. He tried all kinds of methods in battle. Ice attribute, wind attribute and forcefully combined different attributes of Ability X as long as it was doable. He had all tried them. The results were that they were useless. There were many times he exploded because of himself when he tried to forcefully combine different attributes of Ability X. This had actually allowed Wang Zheng to capture some of the key lessons instead, and this could be considered as the only consolation he had gotten. However, after being killed by the Super Zerg, again and again, Wang Zheng's familiarity with the Super Zerg could be even greater than the Zerg itself. Slowly, Wang Zheng realized the Super Zerg he faced each time would always have minute differences. The simulation in the Rubik's Cube was all rounded and weren't just dead data. Wang Jung could swear that even the appearance of the super Zerg he faced each time was different. Wang Jung's feelings about this were as vivid as it could get. He could differentiate the appearance of each Zerg in just one glance. Student Wang was starting to suspect if he was becoming a Zerg himself soon. What he was lacking was to differentiate the gender and whether the Zerg was considered to be beautiful or ugly. However, Zergs reproduced asexually and didn't have any gender. It was just that it could give birth and therefore was judged using the human way of understanding. He didn't know which attempt this was. However, Wang Jung suddenly felt that the Zerg opposite of him was a little different. It seemed a little like its speed wasn't fast enough. If it was in the past, once he revealed his head, the Super Zerg would immediately pounce over. However, for this time, this Super Zerg hesitated for a moment before pouncing over with a loud roar, and the roar seemed even crazier. Wang Jung was willing to bet that he saw a different expression from the face of the Super Zerg that pounced over. Don't ask him why he could differentiate the expressions of the Zerg. This process was definitely disgusting and not the type that was worth reminiscing. A dog that barked loudly wouldn't bite. This Zerg was feeling a little guilty. This Super Zerg was in some disadvantageous state. Wait a minute, he recalled a connection he had while conversing with old Joe. The Zerg from the abyss was like the tides. It had a strong phase like the rising tide and would also a weakened state like receding tides. It was just that this conjecture had never been proven. Old Joe had also guessed that just like women having some days in a month when they would be inconvenient, could it be that the Zergs have the same issues? However, when he saw the Zerg in front of him now, Wang Jung just felt that this conjecture of old Joe was most probably right. Wang Jung's eyes lit up and could feel his entire body burning suddenly. D*MN. The training in the Rubik's Cube couldn't be a deadlock and one would definitely be able to complete it eventually. Therefore Wang Jung had always held on to this belief. He had waited enough to finally get to this point. However, when the opportunity arrived, Wang Jung's reaction was calmer than at any point in time. One should know that in the previous battles, sometimes Wang Jung only focused on accomplishing one thing at a time. For example, he would opt to be whipped to death and the next time he would choose a different way to die. Only then would this be interesting. Old Joe. Wang Jung especially missed him at this moment. The strength of one usually didn't originate from him. With a sudden maneuver, the mech dodged the attacks from the Super Zerg. Did you really treat me as a kitty cat? The tiger just wasn't showing its might yet. There was a clear difference in this Zerg's speed and potency of attacks. Boom. Wang Jung's ice attribute ability X exploded in an instance. Control. With regards to using ability X to control this type of Zerg, there were a lot of considerations too. It had to be fast, furious and concentrated. If it was a large scale and with huge might, only death awaited. One would be dead before fully executing the move. Two tentacle claws swept across from the left, however, before being affected, it was one step slower. Wind and ice were used at the same time. This type of experiment was extremely dangerous. He had already died many times previously from this. However, his luck was great this time. With a loud boom, he had surprisingly trapped the Zerg that was attacking fiercely. Wang Jung struck instantly. A thin layer of scorching fire covered the titanium blade. The blade pierced and hit the lower abdomen area of the Zerg. An extremely unpleasant crackle could be heard as sparks were spreading to the surrounding. This was a relatively weaker spot that Wang Jung had discovered. However, the truth was it was still so disgustingly hard. However, with the addition of the power of the flame, it had effectively hindered the regeneration of its shell. Grr, the Super Zerg let out a roar. However, Wang Jung roared even louder. Screw you. It meant nothing to have a loud voice. See how I'm going to kill you. Boom, the titanium blade turned abruptly. With its ghostly footwork, the mech dodged several fatal tentacle claws attacks again. Boom. The left shoulder of the mech exploded directly. Sparks were flickering everywhere. Wang Jung immediately shed its left arm. The mech that lost its left arm followed through with the momentum and charge ahead. Ice attribute ability exploded again and continued to control. Wind ability reacted, wind trapping technique. Wind and ice duo control. The Super Zerg was stunned for a moment. Just when Wang Jung was about to celebrate his fruits of the battle, his body shook suddenly. The backfired effects of spamming ability X rushed up in him. His vision was about to turn black. Grr, he was really risking his life now. Wang Jung bit on the tip of his tongue and could feel a small piece of meat in his mouth. Severe pulses of pain instantly rushed up to his brain. His whole body reacted from the severe pain. The mech wriggled and dodged the attacks of the tentacles. Wang Jung once again exerted strength on the wounds of the Zerg. Let me send you something fun. 2 types of abilities, ice and fire, directly channeled in. This was a brainless fusion explosion and was also Wang Jung's only chance. Rumble, the Abyss Zerg instantly exploded into pieces. No matter how strong the defense was, it wouldn't be able to withstand the sudden explosiveness of this type of fusion ability X. Wang Jung's Phantom King also flew out. The debris of the explosion was similar to bullets. Luckily, bright lights filled his vision. This scam training had finally ended. Congratulations Master on defeating the Super Zerg and meeting your objective. Are you going to start on your next objective? Wang Jung was shocked for a moment and took a deep breath. He had surprisingly completed it. No, I want to leave, Master. I would recommend you to continue. In your dreams. Hurry up. Your master want to leave this place. Wang Jung was despising it 10,000 times. You aren't even a beautiful lady. This type of tough and rough place, if it wasn't absolutely necessary, he wouldn't want to be here even if he was to die. There's a limit to training. As a teenager with a bright future, he agreed with Zhang Shan's words fully at this moment. Then let me out now. Wang Jung raised his head and found himself lying on the floor like a dog. An employee was staring dumbfoundedly at him from a place not too far away. Hey student, it's already very late and it's the weekend, aren't you going back yet? This man was thinking to himself. What was this brat doing here on a weekend? He also wanted to rest. The system didn't seem to have any issues. He did not wish to have such troubles on a weekend. Just now, I had fallen asleep. You're right, I'll also like to go back now. Wang Jung immediately fled and ran faster than a rabbit. The wind outside the cube felt extremely comfortable. He truly had enough of the hellish-like training in the Rubik's Cube. To be able to chat with Zhang Shan and the rest while training was simply heaven. However, he didn't have time to play now. He had to consolidate all the information on this tentacle monster first. However, a thought suddenly flashed through Wang Jung's mind. All these intel and genetic sampling were done by whom? DMN, it had nothing to do with him. Earth-traveling tentacles monsters typically moved in ovals. Its instantaneous speed was relatively quicker. However, when using tentacles, movement speed would decrease. Its ability to move in an arc was very poor. The energy cannon couldn't be fired consecutively with at least a 5 seconds interval. It had the ability to dive into the ground but movement range would not exceed 20 meters. It could only dive relatively shallow into the ground and its movement speed would decrease. Its shell near the abdomen was relatively more fragile. The destructiveness of flames seemed to be better than other abilities. Wang Jung lay on the bed in his dormitory. The feeling of lying down was so comfortable that he almost started moaning. In his brain, it was all about Zerg and the problems in the details. That was whenever its fangs near the cannon openings were extended to the maximum, it would be the time the tentacles Zerg dived downwards. These D*MN things were about to brainwash him as his brain only thought about Zerg. On a grand scale, Wang Jung had formulated a solution. The half-weakened period of the Zerg was dependent mainly on luck. One couldn't bet on it. Under normal circumstances, he still needed strong and powerful individuals to pin it down. Achilles, Lai Xin, Hawkadalin or even Olivius would do. He needed some helpers that could withstand a round of attacks from the Zerg. Yang Pan's ability seemed to be a good counter to the Zerg. Recalling back about the reactions of the Zerg, it probably was very afraid of that penetrative killing strength. In other words, the Zerg was afraid of penetrative power? The effects of lasers were extremely bad. No matter if it was the Zerg that had evolved or anything, the practical effects truly weren't great. Armor-piercing rounds? Wang Jung felt the need to consolidate this information for Butcher. This could also be considered first-hand information. Shouldn't the military issue a medal to him? Although the only one that had an open challenge was Yang Pan, the truth was everyone had also attempted. Clearly, no one had obtained victory. Otherwise, it would have been revealed earlier. If they were close to succeeding, they would probably work hard and attempt again. However, after attempting, the difference was probably much bigger. The truth was Wang Zheng felt that this was pretty troublesome. This was because Ha Caitlin and Lai Xin truly might not help him. It probably wouldn't be enough if it was only dependent on his fire damage alone. After all, the chances of encountering a half-weakened stage were too slim. With the current lineup of the Saruman Snake battle team, the difficulty was truly too high. Wang Zheng was busy with things and therefore Wei Yan was too lazy to go out and play. The little princess had an explosion of inspiration and was culminating towards her new song. She was feeling great recently. Everything seemed to be heading in a wonderful direction. Although her sister was pretending that nothing had happened, like her sister who knew her well, Wei Yan knew that in her heart, she was definitely shaken. Even if she had forgotten Wang Zheng, she would probably still fall for Wang Zheng for the same reasons. Chuckle. It was just like a movie and might really be filmed in the future. The theme song of it would definitely be hers. The cute little princess just wore a pink spaghetti long t-shirt and curled up on the sofa. In her mouth, she was biting on a pen. She was circling and writing very happily and even drew a large panda at one side. Anyone would really like to hug her in their arms and cuddle. Footsteps sounded and Aina walked in. Not going out and have fun on a weekend? This isn't like your personality at all. Ah, sister, do you want to listen to my new song? Oh, you have a new piece of work again? I can imagine Aunt's expression. Cough cough. Please don't mention her at such a joyous moment. It would kill off my inspiration. However, she's busy now and has no time to take care of us. It should be more like taking care of you. It's the same, sister. Your expression was a little serious. Which part of me was being serious? Laughed Aina. Tisk, you can't hide from me. Aren't you worried for the matter with the Imperial Glory battle team? Aina smiled. It's still alright. Ha Caitlin still isn't mature enough and needed further training. I have intended to transfer him out of Elite Academy and send him to the military for more training. His strength is already sufficient, but he requires a better sense of the bigger picture and a composed mentality. Iya, these things are too complicated. Let's listen to my new work first. Aina couldn't help but smile. She stayed on the sofa and hugged Wei Yan. Alright. Let me listen to your new inspiration. The melody was very fast and the tempo was great. Aina was also mesmerized from listening to it and soon was able to relax and kept nodding her head. How is it? Isn't it great? I have thought of a name, Candy Sweetheart. So sweet. Why does it sound like someone is in love? Aina teased. What? This is art and has nothing to do with love. Wei Yan was rather serious and didn't catch Aina's hints. Aina also didn't make it explicitly clear. She caressed Wei Yan's hair and said, "My sister is the most beautiful girl in this world. I wonder what type of man would be deserving of you." What? Sister, you are the most beautiful. You are just trying to make me feel happy. The two of us should just stop boasting and complimenting each other. The two sisters laughed heartily. In this place, they could put down their guise and identity. They could gossip like any other girls of their age and laugh loudly. It can't be. This Zhang Shan is really interesting and is rather magical. He has such small guts and yet is the scout. However, when it comes to having small guts, let me tell you, the fatty Luo in the Dynasty battle team is definitely the #1 coward. He likes to eat and sleep, is a coward and scared of dying. Yet he is doing very well in this place. He is definitely a strange one. Wei Yan laughed. That fatty was truly interesting. He was a perfect match for Lear. One of them was super serious while the other was super lazy. When this Luo Fei saw Lear, it was just like a mouse seeing a cat. The truth is the solar system isn't lacking in talents. It was just that the internal exhaustion in recent years has been rather high and it couldn't retain its talents. They would be really strong if they could unite together. Sister, we are gossiping. Please don't elevate it to the level of politics. I have heard that you have the intention to summon experts over, said Wei Yan. Aina nodded. The Greatest King competition has turned into a highly influential international affair. The truth is it isn't only us. Manalasuo, Leah Sphinx and Hail Cloud Alliance would probably send guys over. Oh, anyway, Wang Zheng is the strongest. Lin Weiyan answered nonchalantly. Aina couldn't help but smile. You are so confident, you should know that behind an able man there are always other able men. Hee, even Olivius had lost. What is there to be afraid of? There are a number of objective factors resulting in Olivius' failure. For example, the usage of the mech was too high. If they had better mecha, the outcome between the two of them is still indeterminate. Who said that Wang Zheng has used all his strength, retorted Weiyan. Aina was stunned. It seemed to be the case. It seems like your confidence in him isn't just ordinarily high. Of course, you should see who's interested in him. Weiyan said with a very satisfied tone, and she clearly was referring to another person. However, Aina had clearly understood the meaning of the words at a superficial level. It seemed that she had to pay attention to this Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng didn't seem to have the same interest in Weiyan. He was really a strange guy. Even if she was a guy, it was impossible for her to not be attracted to Weiyan. She was a pure and innocent little angel, the most beautiful existence in this world. Just as what Aina had said, Manalasuo definitely couldn't tolerate such results in battles. Dendi's performance was still acceptable and could be considered as having above average in battle experiences among the captains in the Greatest King competition. However, what a strong country like Manalasuo wanted was victory. This was far from being enough for them. Therefore, there would be specially chosen warriors entering, and undoubtedly, they would be mechanics. Obviously, their age couldn't be too high. Other problems could also be solved. With regard to this, the Elite Academy had adopted an open attitude. Just like the name of the academy, Elite Academy X for Mankind, as long as the age wasn't too high, every other thing was negotiable. Elite Academy had planned to forge the strongest, and probably a competition that would go down in the books of history. The other countries like Lea Sphinx, Sirius Star, Hail Cloud Alliance, and Estina had the same plans. It was just that they had to think about the way to do it. As for the solar system, they were very calm. It wasn't because of the good results they received but because they were lacking in subsequent reinforcements and therefore had no other choices. Saruman's snake battle team really had a headache. Wang Zheng and the rest were, in fact, looking to replenish and reinforce their battle prowess. However, amongst those candidates that had qualified and joined, none were very suitable. They were either here because of the fame or just couldn't click well with the team. They were giving the feeling that since they were here, they were doing the battle team a favor and it was a gain for the battle team. Saruman's snake battle team had shot to fame in the previous competition and was pushed to a very high position. However, there were too many people eyeing this position. Their position wasn't safe at all. As the other battle teams got stronger, it was hard to predict how the future of the battle team would be like. The serious lack of reserves and stamina were the restricting factors for the Saruman snake battle team. This was also a very obvious problem. Wang Zheng and Ai Xiaolu naturally knew about it. However, they couldn't do anything about it. There were too many people who thought that they were talents. It felt like all these people were thinking that all they were lacking was an opportunity and a stage and they could impress once they were there. Saruman's snake battle team definitely did not need such kinds of people. Takumi, Ali seemed to be not bad of a choice. Heavenly Overlord Arts. Wang Zheng suddenly felt the need to explore Oli's potential. This girl's strength was very strong and was resilient and hardworking in training. It was just that she rarely spoke and others always forgot about her. With the two of them at the front row, together with Zhang Shan and Achilles pinned down, and him, Vincent or Snowly doing the attacks, it seemed very doable. However, Vincent and Snowly didn't have enough destructive power. The power of the wind wasn't enough to cause fatal damage to this type of Zerg. As for Snowly's, her ability could slow it down but her destructive powers weren't enough. This was probably where he had a headache on. With him alone, it was a little too difficult. It seemed, he really had to look for Lai Xin to help out. Wang Zheng also didn't know if Lai Xin would agree to it. Nonetheless, he still sent a Skylink message to Lai Xin. Lai Xin was taking a shower. Her conditions were great now and her sense of guilt seemed to be able to be relieved a little. The water slipped down along her voluptuous body. The unique long legs, strong and healthy figures of girls from Mars were definitely the best. And through the baptism of the Lai Flame technique, her body was emanating an even more fiery temptation. Recently, the numbers of Lai Xin's suitors had exploded a little. In fact, the existence of sex wasn't a taboo for a girl from Mars. On the contrary, they enjoyed it very much. A girl like Lai Xin would be unusual. This was mainly because the Lai family itself was an ancient family that succeeded in some customs. The other reasons were the pride of Lai Xin and her other thinking. However, all these weren't important now. Who should she let to enjoy this fiery body? There were times where her body truly ached to vent her desires. It was especially so when she was alone. When darkness struck, everything was filled with desires. Lai Xin's fingers moved down along from her neck and went through those voluptuous and firm breasts. The soft touches brought with it sudden trepidations in her heart and soul. In Lai Xin's eyes, it was even filled with demon-like temptations. The sounds from the skylink smashed through all these thoughts. Lai Xin turned off the tap, pulled down the towel and covered her body that could drive one crazy. She walked towards her skylink barefooted. She yearned for a man now to get rid of these. No matter who he was, it didn't matter. After all, it was just a matter of time before her first time would end. What's the meaning to it? Men were just so hilarious and cared about this, which meant nothing. The truth was they didn't know that women didn't care about it at all. Who would it be? Lear, Mabraz, or those suitors that were filled with carnal desire and who wished to tear her apart? The chance had arrived. The next moment, Lai Xin's fiery flame subsided in a short while. It was surprisingly Wang Zheng. This scoundrel. This was a guy that Lai Xin didn't wish to think about but had to face. This brat was always able to make her recall Lai Guang and joyous times. Yet it had to be this D*MN moment. Why did this guy contact her through Skylink? They were already opponents now. Was he sick? Miss High and Mighty, Lai Xin, was enraged. She wanted to look for a man, to vent her frustration and engage in debauchery. However, this guy had just appeared. What's the matter? Wang Zheng clearly felt the unfriendliness from Lai Xin, who was at the other end. Lai Xin, I have found a way to deal with the Abyss Zerg. However, I need a fire attribute attacker. Wang Zheng didn't beat around the bush. Lai Xin was speechless. He called her in the middle of the night just to talk about this. I'm only interested in a man in the middle of the night. Lai Xin blurted out. She started to feel a little regret once she said those words. Rest assured, I'm definitely a man. When dealing with this Zerg, Achilles and I would be responsible for the defense. You just have to attack with full strength and it will be fine. Wang Zheng was still drowned in his own thoughts and didn't understand the meaning of those words at all. Lai Xin was also totally drunk. Scram, I want to sleep. She hung up immediately after speaking. Her actions were too large and the towel dropped onto the ground. That maturing naked body was slightly red and full of primitive temptation. At the other end, Wang Zheng was dumbfounded and shook his head helplessly. He had heard that girls would always have a few days in a month when they were abnormal. He was really unlucky to witness it. Forget it. If Lai Xin wasn't coming, it was indeed a little more troublesome. The difficulty for the current lineup was truly rather high. They would still require more training. When dealing with the tentacle monster, one would need strong operating capabilities and responsiveness. In other words, they would need to be able to keep up with his pace. If one didn't have enough training to coordinate, then they had to be extremely strong in the aspect of the physical technique. Clearly, the rest weren't strong enough. Lai Xin wasn't willing to come and there really weren't any other candidates. As for Hokatelan, Wang Zheng didn't bear any hope. After all, the competition between various battle teams was very intense. Moreover, with Hokatelan's arrogance, it was highly likely that he would be angered once Wang Zheng spoke about it. This was really a headache. The truth was Lai Xin had a bigger headache. Sometimes she would feel that wasn't this Wang Zheng just a simpleton? Or was it that she wasn't attractive at all? Honestly speaking, Aina's beauty could be considered as unparalleled from the common perspective. However, there were many different types of beauty. Lai Xin truly believed that she didn't have her type of charisma. She couldn't understand clearly. Lai Xin didn't spend much time thinking about this question. However, her mood was undoubtedly destroyed by Wang Zheng, that brat. Wait a minute, he said he had a way to deal with that Abyss Zerg? This was the only thing that could attract Lai Xin's attention now. She had challenged that Zerg multiple times previously. However, she couldn't withstand it at all. Nonetheless, she could subtly feel that flames had a certain level of lethality on it. It was just that she required a sufficiently good environment. Lear was also having a headache over this matter. The lineup of the Dynasty battle team was very good. The attacker was also strong enough. However, the problem was that they couldn't seem to be able to withstand a round of attacks from the Zerg. The intelligence of this Zerg was extremely high. It even knew when to take the initiative to attack and when to defend and wait for a counterattack. It was a great night and it could have been used to do some other things. Lai Xin suddenly realized that Wang Zheng had once again successfully diverted her attention. His influence still lingered on. Wang Zheng was still worrying over the lineup when Yan Xiaoshu suddenly called him through the Skylink. It was most likely something important for this guy to be calling at this time. However, his expression seemed to be very serious. "Boss, I'm getting married." Wang Zheng was stunned for a moment. "Married? That's great. Wait a minute. Who are you getting married to? D*MN. Are you kidding me? How old are you?" "Of course it's real. I'm getting married. In fact, it isn't that sudden, right? The bride is Zhao Ellen, who I have mentioned to you the previous time. After so many things, I suddenly understood. When I meet a good girl, I have to strike quickly and keep her under my protection to protect her from being tainted from the cruel society." He could tell from Yan Xiaoshu's expression when he talked about Zhao Ellen that he had fallen into the snare of love. Wang Zheng also didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was truly decisive. However, seeing that Yan Xiaoshu was so serious, he was also happy for him. "When is it? You didn't even send me an invitation." Yao Xiaoshu rubbed his nose and chuckled. "It might be a little too late. It's 3 days later. Boss, we have only made the impromptu decision last night. Ellen believed that this was a day gifted by the Lord. At that moment, we didn't think too much about it. Just thinking about being together, we have decided to just treat it as a flash marriage." Wang Zheng touched his forehead and replied, "You brat, I couldn't make it back even if I can fly." Yan Xiaoshu scratched his head and continued, "It's okay, it's okay. Boss, just send me a video to send your wishes. Other than that, just send me a set of signed album of Lin Weyan will be fine. Ellen really likes her songs." It wasn't that Yan Xiaoshu didn't think of it. In his heart, he would naturally wish to share his happiness with his brother on his own wedding. However, he knew that how much attention Wang Zheng garnered in the Elite Academy X, making him make a long trip back to the solar system to attend his wedding was a little not practical. This type of things that would trouble his brother was something that he just couldn't do. Wang Zheng massaged his eyebrows. If he couldn't see through those little thoughts of Yan Xiaoshu, the years of being brothers would truly be in vain. Some words didn't have to be said and keeping it in one's heart would be enough. "Who do you intend to make the best man? This man is snatching my business. Doesn't this mean that I have no hopes with the beautiful bridesmaid? Haha, is Jasper that brat? Even if there are bridesmaids, with boss's eyesight, you probably won't be interested. I truly cannot just let it be. When you are on your leave, I will host another wedding," laughed Yan Xiaoshu. "Pooh pooh pooh, don't jinx it, marrying once is enough. Do you think that this is just cosplay?" scolded Wang Zheng laughingly. However, from the eyes of Yan Xiaoshu, he could see some degree of gentleness and seriousness. It would seem like that girl was truly his other half. "I'll stop here. I still have a huge lot of people to inform. Boss, remember to send a congratulatory video. Remember to dress up well to support me." Looking at Yan Xiaoshu's energetic figure, Wang Zheng was also speechless. Nonetheless, he was happy for him. To meet the right person was something so blissful yet difficult. After hanging up the Skylink, he thought for a while and dialed Yi Zessu's number. "What's the situation with Xiaoshu? Is he really going for a flash marriage?" Yi Zessu shook her head and laughed. "I have also just received the news and this was really a little too sudden. He has proposed on a casual occasion. However, he was likely inspired by something and Ellen agreed to it. This girl is really not bad. She has fixed the wedding date at that moment. Big brother, you don't have to come back. It will be fine for me to just represent you. This is the only way now. The fastest flight back will take at least a week too. Let me think of a solution again." Wang Zheng rubbed his chin. Counting the time required, he felt truly helpless. Indeed, he would definitely not make it back if he was to book a ticket back to Earth now. Was sending a congratulatory video the only thing he could do now? Wang Zheng shook his head and switched on his Skylink. He wanted to ask Ai Xiaolu if she knew of any ways to get back to the solar system in the shortest amount of time. Needless to say, when wealth and time had accumulated to a certain degree, one would have many solutions. Ai Xiaolu was a classic example. It was such a big thing for Yan Xiaoshu, that brat, and he really didn't wish to miss it. Just when Wang Jung was going to dial the Skylink, beep beep, Lin Huiyan had called him a step earlier. "Brother Wang Jung, are you free tomorrow? I have asked my sister along. Let's go to Roland Garros to play. Sister has already agreed. This is a good sign." The look of Lin Huiyan when she blinked her eyes as she smiled faintly was like a cold breeze in the summer. However, from her eyes, she seemed to be holding on to some hope. Wang Jung couldn't bear to reject her. Suddenly, a thought struck Wang Jung. He knew that the princess would have the princess ship at the space harbor on standby. Moreover, it had extremely high access rights within the Milky Way alliance. This might be his hope. "Huiyan, I have something that needs your help. Yan Xiaoshu is getting married in 3 days. Can you use your spaceship to send me to the solar system? If I can make it back, I really do not want to miss the most important moment of his life," said Wang Jung. Under normal circumstances, Wang Jung wouldn't be willing to raise such a request. After all, this would bring a lot of trouble to others. However, at this moment, he couldn't care too much about it. "No problem. If it's 3 days, it should be enough. I can make them go faster." Student Huiyan suddenly got excited like a well-behaved but sly little rabbit. Wang Jung really had to look for Lin Huiyan for this matter. Ai Xiaolu did not have other solutions either, as it involved the division of rights across various star regions. Some of the rules were something that a business could do nothing about. However, for the princess ship, it was similar to the eyes of Aslan's land. As long as the country had a co-traveling agreement with Aslan, it could pass through without any obstruction. This was indeed something that was possible by just having money. Within the Milky Way alliance, it was really hard to find a few countries that did not have agreements with Aslan. After various discussions, Yan Xiaoshu's wedding was fixed to be held on the moon. After seeing Zhao Ellen and her family, Yan Xiaoshu's father was finally able to heave a sigh of relief. He was very satisfied with the circumstances of the Zhao family. It was no wonder that Yan Xiaoshu was so eager to skip the engagement segment and had chosen to get married directly. To form a family and start a career were huge occasions in one's life. The Zhao family was also very satisfied with the circumstances of the Yan family. This was not only because little Lucky Star was doing better and better each day. They weren't very concerned about the external. It was mainly because the Yan family's father and son were all very approachable and thought about them. Initially, the wedding should have been held on Earth. However, Yan Xiaoshu wished for Zhao Ellen to be a little happier and therefore fixed it on the moon. After all, Zhao Ellen would be staying with him on Earth for the majority of the time after the wedding. As for age, on the moon, girls getting married at the age of 18 was actually something common. A smart girl would hand herself to the right person at the moment when they were the most beautiful and attractive. In fact, Zhao Ellen was the smartest girl. Old Yan's opinion was to host a grand wedding. He was really fond of the kind Zhao Ellen as his daughter-in-law. A wedding would always be the most important dream for a girl. Since she would be marrying over, she would be the Yan family's daughter-in-law. They could never allow her to feel injustice because of the wedding. Moreover, with the influence scope of the Yan family these days, it absolutely could have sensational effects. However, old Zhao's side still wished to keep a lower profile, and it would be just fine with just their relatives and friends. He had also recognized a problem, and that was if the wedding was going to be held in a grand manner, the guests from the groom's side would probably overwhelm the guests from the bride's side. The wedding would then lose its initial intentions and have more of a commercial tinge to it. If that happened, it would really be pointless. Yan Xiaoshu also had the same thoughts. Other than Wang Jung unable to attend being a regret, the fact was that he had only thought of inviting some of his closer friends. Obviously, some extinguished guests would be necessary, like tutor Xiao Fei, Yi Bingwen, Principal Ji Yute, Solon, and the rest. At the same time, the gifts for the wedding would also be donated to the charity organization in full. In the future, Zhao Ellen would be in charge of Little Lucky Star charity organization. This matched what she had learned in her personality. The final decision was to host the wedding in Laurel Hotel, one of the most luxurious hotels on the moon. This was the final insistence of the Yan father. Their wedding could be held in a low-profile manner, but the guests to the wedding required respect. It would be a simple yet magnificent wedding. In addition, the media would not be allowed in. Rumors had it that some television channels were willing to pay a high price for the rights to broadcast this wedding live. However, Yan Xiaoshu had rejected them. Frankly speaking, Tyrant Su wasn't lacking in money now. What was more important for him was to not let the wedding become a farce. For such an important moment, the fatty was still feeling a little anxious. Although they had paid a lot of attention to it, there were still many people who came. It was especially so for Yan Xiaoshu and his father's side. There were even people from Yi Zisu's side. They had to be here as there was no other way around it. After all, a blessing in good faith couldn't be completely evaded away. With OMG and Little Lucky Star's reputation now, this level could already be considered to be not bad. Zhao Ellen's side was more relaxed. Her side had tried to invite as many relatives and friends as possible. This was also because they hoped that this would make Zhao Ellen happier. Kren Wellington had also invited some of his pals in his business. His niece being married to the Yan family brought him much assistance in the business side. Today was also for him to prove this point to his clients. At the same time, it was to show support to Ellen. Even if the quality wasn't enough, the quantity would then have to make up for it then. Kren, this isn't right. Are you sure that this is really the Yan family from Little Lucky Star? Are you sure they aren't imposters? Yuri, CEO of the Yujing Group. He was an important client of Kren Wellington's business now. At this moment, he tweaked his eyebrows and looked at the simple decoration of the venue while wearing a faint smile on his face. With the current class of Little Lucky Star in the solar system, these standards were a little too low profile. In these days, who wouldn't celebrate these types of grand occasions in a large and elaborate way? Kren Wellington just smiled along. How could this be fake? Hee, the younger generation likes to follow the trends and just have to organize some simple charity-style wedding. All the gifts would also be donated out after the wedding. Hee, doing charity is a good thing, said Yuri with a faint smile. Although that's what he said, one could clearly see the contempt in his eyes. There were many ways to do charity. Having it in the wedding, in his eyes, was a little overboard. As a rich and powerful man, doing charity was a social responsibility and was to contribute back to the society. However, one couldn't just allow one's major life event to be overshadowed by charity. There weren't just one or two people who held the same views as Yuri. They were feeling that the Yan family was a little too stingy. Obviously, these types of words could only be said casually privately. After all, this was an important day for them. Moreover, it was also a meaningful good deed. They could choose to not agree with it, but they wouldn't stoop to the level of despising it. However, the image of being a local tyrant would be inevitable. A typical person would always believe that the bride's side would be more reserved. How could the groom's side just take it for real? A wedding had to be held in a large and elaborate way for it to be livelier, and they could also bask in the light at the same time. Zhao Ellen was wearing her wedding gown. Today, she was extremely gorgeous. With the wedding makeup, she looked just like a fairy that had descended from the skies. She thought she was dreaming. She was very grateful to the Lord for the arrangement and letting her meet Yan Xiaoshu. This type of feelings would be even clearer when the wedding was going on. She would be his. Till now, she still had those dreamy feelings. The truth was, after she discovered Yan Xiaoshu's identity, Zhao Ellen had once thought that this would just be a moment of novelty for him. She had never expected there would be a day like today. Oh Shaolin, when you get married, you would have grown up. Remember to show appreciation to your husband more in the future. There might be more rules in the family on earth. Although the in-laws seemed very easygoing, you also have to pay more attention to it. Mother Zhao's eyes were already red. Just as her daughter was get married, she was feeling a little reluctant to part with her. Zhao Ellen's eyes turned red. No matter what, when she thought about being unable to return home every day, she would feel a faint pain in her heart. Sister, Dad, Mom. I have just returned from the side of the sister-in-law. What are you all thinking? How could this scale match the status of sister-in-law? I have lost respect in front of my classmates because of this. With sister-in-law's identity, he should have at least booked the entire hotel and invite some famous stars along to make the wedding more lively. Sigh. His only nephew isn't happy about this. Zhao Yushang, that hasty brat, barged in and immediately turned the atmosphere laughable. Remember kid, your life is your own, don't always count on your sister-in-law. Tisk, don't talk to me about those principles of life. I can't count on dad and mum forever. For my later part of my life, I just have to count on sister-in-law. I have decided, for the future, I will listen to sister-in-law and do as he said. What sister-in-law says must be correct, Zhao Yushang said seriously. Everyone burst into laughter and this had indeed washed away some melancholic feelings. Is the bride ready? It's about time. At this moment, the MC of the wedding had walked over. After which, several bridesmaids walked in together with him. They pulled Zhao Ellen along as they finished up the final preparations. On the other side, Yan Xiaoshu had also dressed up for the occasion. Not to mention, people rely on the clothes they were wearing. After student Yan had put up the groom's makeup and clothing, he really looked a little suave. The main reason was still because he had lost quite a bit of his fats recently. For his true love, Yan Xiaoshu had also gave his all and ensured that he went to the gym every day. Old Yan looked at his son and nodded his head, don't be nervous. It is you that is nervous, said Yan Xiaoshu helplessly. Although old Yan had been in the business circle for so many years, he had not completely gotten comfortable with such big occasions. Little Lucky Star's external matters were all handled by professional managers in Yan Xiaoshu currently. Jasper walked in from outside. Gobber, that brat couldn't make it here. He has asked me to send his wishes to brother Yan. That brat's family is doing something. I estimate that the next time we see him, that brat would be the one in charge. Jasper was the best man and happened to be in the solar system. When he heard of this matter, he obviously couldn't pass the responsibility to another person. Brother Yan, aren't you being a little too low profile today? Do you want me to get some stars over to support the event? They are all close to me, laughed Jasper. Scram. Don't bring your harem over. Low profile, do you understand? We need to keep a low profile, said Yan Xiaoshu. Yes, I understand. My levels isn't there yet, aren't I learning now? However, despite saying all these, he took a look around. The one he wished to meet wasn't around. Brother Yan, when will Brother Zheng arrive? Yan Xiaoshu smiled. You brat, I know you have something else in mind. This is a flash marriage. Do you think he would be as free as us and can just come as he likes? Jasper scratched his head. Brother Yan is right. Hee. It's about time. Brother Yan, are the ring and flowers prepared? Okay. Yan Xiaoshu was still a little nervous. He checked one more time and nodded his head. Oh Jasper, it's been hard on you this time. Uncle, look at what you're saying. It is I who is thick-skinned and has to be here. What I have today was because of Brother Yan being a role model for me. Seeing Brother Yan getting married, I am also intending to quicken my pace. Haha, that would be great, that would be great. Let's go. Don't let others wait for us for too long. When they walked out of the room, the red carpet was ready and the priest on the elevated platform was already waiting for them. Yan Xiaoshu and Jasper walked over. Old Yan, as the elder of the family, had walked over to the groom's guests and started to entertain them. When he turned back and saw his son's mature looks while standing on the stage waiting, he suddenly had the feeling that his son had finally grown up. At this moment, a figure walked to the front of the ceremony stage. He patted Jasper and said, "Friend, do you mind giving up this position? This position is mine." Jasper almost jumped up. D*MN. Which blind man dares to offend me, if I don't teach him a lesson? However, Yan Xiaoshu, who was beside him, jumped up before him. Boss, why are you here? Do you think that by acting first and informing me later I couldn't be here? I'm going to snatch this limelight no matter what. I heard that the bridesmaids are all beauties. Is that true? Where are they? Wang Zheng hugged Yan Xiaoshu tightly and hammered on his shoulders heavily. Not bad. You do look like something after dressing up. Not far away, Yi Zisu was smiling but wasn't saying a word. The wedding had been organized by her. When she heard about Wang Zheng, she was also shocked. To be able to travel here in 3 days was simply unbelievable. However, when she saw the princess ship, she wasn't that surprised anymore. Hey, bro, lend me your clothes for a while. Jasper had already realized who the other party was. Without saying another word, he removed his clothes and left. Oh, damn. The final boss was here. One could really not tell from his looks. He looked just like a student. However, a highly capable person was still a highly capable person. Looking across the entire Milky Way alliance, how many people could reach the moon from Roland Garros within 3 days? Wang Zheng, Yan father was a little surprised too. Didn't he say that he was in Roland Garros and couldn't make it back? This wasn't like rushing from the Earth to the moon. However, those below the stage were even less clear about the situation. Who was this dude? There are even people fighting to be the best man? Everyone knew about Jasper. He was a super new star of the Tadinger financial organization. With him as the best man, this simple wedding still had that little class to speak of. Frankly speaking, the Yan family was too stingy. Even if these were the views of the bride, did they have to be so dull? Even the MC of the ceremony was a nobody. Now it was getting interesting. Jasper was surprisingly chased off the stage, or rather, Jasper was not willing to be the best man anymore. Looking at his age, he should be Yan Xiaosu's ex-classmate. He's still a teenager after all. Who doesn't have a best friend? Completely understandable. Luckily, the qualities of those friends and relatives that were invited were either not bad or they had relatively deeper cooperation with the Yan family. Everyone was interested in getting on the good books of the Yan family. In this occasion, there were multiple people who were trying to put in good words for the Yan family. However, the guests that Kren Wellington had invited weren't that courteous. Isn't this too much? Jasper was chased off the stage. Who does that brat think he is? What kind of occasion is this? Yuri shook his head. The Yan family was a little too reckless. At this moment, the door to the hall was pushed open. At the same time, the wedding music from the piano sounded. Zhao Ellen, with her father holding on to her, was walking step by step towards the MC through the red carpet. The bridesmaids were following behind and helping to hold on to the long wedding dress. Some children who were dressed as angels were full of smiles and scattering flowers at both sides. Yan Xiaosu's heart started thumping vigorously. In an instant, there was only Zhao Ellen left in his vision. Applause sounded. Yan Xiaoshu went down on one knee and took Zhao Ellen over from his father-in-law. This was the custom of the moon, signifying that the bride's protection would be handed over to another man from this moment onwards. The music of the wedding march paused for a moment as Yan Xiaoshu and Zhao Ellen walked to the front of the priest. In accordance to the church's rituals of Zhao Ellen's faith, both of them pressed their hands on the Bible. Under the witness of God, they made a sacred vow between husband and wife. In sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, to be loyal to each other from this day onwards, till death do us part. Wherever you go, I will follow. Your country is my country, your God is my God. Under the prayers from the priest, in the name of God, exchanging rings symbolized the handing over of one's most treasured love to each other. Yi Zisu was looking at this scene infatuatedly from a short distance. Beside her was Wang Zheng, who was taking on the role of the best man. They were responsible to pass the ring to the groom and bride respectively. Within such an atmosphere, the strange, amazing feeling made one feel a little dizzy. With the authority bestowed to me by God, I announce Yan Xiaoshu and Zhao Ellen as a couple now. A couple that was decided by God shall never be torn apart. With the final announcement from the priest, the ceremony was completed. Yan Xiaoshu was still feeling a little numb. He held on tightly to Zhao Ellen's hand and returned to the host table. The wedding proceeded to the banquet segment. Everyone started to eat something, and they were free to go up the stage to give their impromptu wishes. The whole wedding was indeed a little simple and casual, without many restrictions. However, man is a strange creature. If it was too grand, it would feel like showing off. If it was simple, it would be not giving it enough respect. Obviously, this wasn't what the Zhao family was thinking, and it wasn't the thoughts of Wellington. He knew clearly that this was the request of Ellen. The way Yan Xiaoshu treated his niece was great beyond any words. However, the people he had invited were mumbling around. They believed that the Yan family had looked down on the Zhao family and therefore had been so casual. Wellington was starting to feel regret. Why had he invited his business partners along? However, at this moment, he couldn't say much. An explanation would be equivalent to covering up. He only hoped that this group of people wouldn't cause a fuss. Yi Zisu was the first to go on the stage. The Missy of OMG was one of the most well-known people in the solar system currently and was one of Yan Xiaosu's best friends. First, I'm envious of you too. For a girl, finding her other half is the most important thing in her life. I have not known Ellen for a long time, but we hit off well since the first meeting. She is the kindest girl in this world. Her heart and soul are as pure as the moon seen from Earth. If I was a man here today, I wouldn't necessarily be standing here to give my wishes but to snatch the bride. Ellen, Yan Xiaoshu has been my classmate since high school. We know each other very well. When he told me that he was getting married, what I said to him at that moment was if he had gotten the dates wrong. Today isn't the 1st of April. After which, he talked to me about you. His expression at that moment, I can still vividly remember it till this day. To be able to take you as his wife is his greatest luck. Today, you two will be the most blessed people in the entire world. Below the stage, the applause was thunderous. For the external people, the speech wasn't important. What was important was if the one giving the speech had enough weight. They finally saw someone with enough weight. Zhao Jie was feeling a little regretful too. He had not considered too little. Old Yan wanting to have a grand wedding was also in consideration for their respect. After all, those relatives of his weren't that unperturbed, although they didn't say it out loud. It seemed as though the Zhao family wasn't respecting them. However, after thinking about it, as long as Ellen had a good life, it would be enough. Why did he have to pay attention to what others felt? Wang Zheng applauded with all smiles. Zhisu, you are really beautiful today. Yi Zhisu smiled like 100 flowers blooming. Really, I thought that you have always seen me as a man. Wang Zheng rubbed his nose, feeling embarrassed. Is it okay if you don't tease me today? Aren't you going up to say something? Forget it. You know that I'm not good at this. However, I did prepare a surprise. Wang Zheng smiled mysteriously. This made Yi Zhisu's heart start to thump. What preparations had Wang Zheng made that could be considered a surprise? Based on the wedding customs on the moon, it was the performance time at this moment. After one had given a speech, there should be a performance. For an average family on the moon, it would be by their family members or close friends. For the upper-class people, they would invite stars on stage. At this moment, among the guests, there were some who had drank some alcohol and started to shout excitedly for the performance. Zhao Yushang was a little nervous holding on to his violin in his hands. In a while, he would be going on stage for a performance. In his heart, he was muttering, "Oh, brother-in-law, there's no one who cons their nephew this way. It is okay if you didn't invite any stars. However, why do you want me, the only nephew, to fill up the spot? My violin play is amateurish." Forget it, to get on the good books of brother-in-law, I will just press on. If I embarrass myself, so be it. After all, I'm still a kid. Everyone would only feel livelier and happier this way. At this moment, several heads popped up at the main door while waving their hands and legs at Zhao Yushang. They were all classmates from the same class that he had invited and were his closest friends. He would be performing 2 segments today. One of them was violin, while the other would be a magic performance together with these few friends of his. Zhao Yushang immediately walked over. Where have you been? It's going to start soon. Don't fail me at the critical moment. This is a great opportunity for me to perform in front of brother-in-law. Yushang, D*MN. Our luck isn't that great today. It wasn't just your sister getting married in this place today. Guess who else is here? Said a small, handsome guy. Who? Stop talking so much. Are you guys done with the preparations for the magic performance? Asked Zhao Yushang. Rest assured. Putting aside the magic performance, first, Xu Feimin and Lun Anting are just at the wedding next door. It's really lively there. Do you know who has come? Xu Feimin and Lun Anting were famous stars on the moon. Moreover, the two of them appeared in movies for the fun of it. The two of them actually came from wealthy families. They were not only very influential in the entertainment industry, they were rather well known in the investment business industry. Who else is there? Zhao Yushang's interest had successfully been aroused. He was still a kid after all, and it was perfectly normal for him to chase after the stars. He had already forgotten that he was in his sister's wedding now. Lu Yidong, Shai Kier, and our goddess, Bess, there are too many to count clearly. To put it simply, all the famous stars in the entertainment industry are here. They're here for the performances, and they're going to start soon. All the kids were excited when they saw the huge stars. Initially, they thought that these stars were here to be part of the wedding, however, they had all gone upstairs. Zhao Yushang's eyes lit up but dulled in just a moment's time. He shook his head and replied, I cannot go. That's right, it's a pity, if you can't go, we will not go either. The few little pals were scratching their heads, they got too excited when they saw the idol. Recalling now, they still had a sense of brotherhood in them. Wang Zheng happened to return from outside and overheard this conversation. He couldn't help but walk over with a smile. Hey little pals, are you all nervous? Hi, Mr. Best Man. Are you a classmate of my brother-in-law? Zhao Yushang was still very curious about Wang Zheng. Previously, he had not been able to ask because of courtesy. Now that Wang Zheng had come to him by himself, he would definitely not let this chance slip away. Yeah, from high school to university, he has always been my best friend. Wang Zheng asked, are you interested in stars? Of course. Who wouldn't be fond of famous stars? At the host table, Yan Xiaoshu and Zhao Ellen were listening to the piano performance by the host lovingly. The nervousness they felt previously had disappeared without a trace, and they were filled with happiness at this moment. Oh, right. Shouldn't your best man be Jasper? Jasper had come in advance, and Zhao Ellen had already gotten to know him. However, it was suddenly changed to a stranger. Although it didn't matter, she still felt like asking. Ah, you are too beautiful today, and I'm so mesmerized that I have forgotten to introduce you to him. He's Wang Zheng. Does he not look the same as on the Skylink? Hee, so it was him. I really couldn't recognize him in his suit. Zhao Ellen smiled. How did he make it back? It must have been tough on him. Haha. This brother of mine can fly to the skies and dive into the ground. He can do anything. He also said that he has a surprise for us as present. Him being here is already the best present, said Zhao Ellen in a cute and helpless look as she followed her husband. At this moment, at the guests' seats, the few guests invited by the bride's uncle, Wellington, had gotten up and said goodbyes after watching the performance of the MC. Hee, Kren, the first son of the Chai family and the second child of the Liu family are getting married just next door. Looking at the time, it's about time for us to go over. Hee, we'll go over for a while and we'll be back soon. The few of them were joking and were getting ready to leave the place. Why would they be back? They had thought that it would be a huge occasion, but the outcome was so childlike. However, at this moment, a group of personnel wearing black suits suddenly flooded in. What were they carrying? These people were moving very quickly and had pulled the curtains of the wedding stage over directly. Old Yan's face tuned. Could it be that there were people trying to create trouble for him? Little Lucky Star had expanded rapidly in these few years, but the people they had offended were also not few. This matter was clearly not arranged by him. Yi Zisu also felt baffled. This was not part of her arrangements. She did not know any of these men. Zhao Ellen took a glance at Yan Xiaoshu. Yan Xiaoshu shook his head and looked towards his father. Old Yan also shook his head cluelessly, after which, he stared towards the MC. The MC's head turned quickly. Customers were gods to him. He immediately rushed over. Wait a minute, who are you guys? What are you all doing? Quick, stop. However, no one paid attention to him. Instantly, the whole crowd started murmuring. If this wasn't a performance arranged by Yan family or the Zhao family in advance, what could this be? They're here to cause trouble? These people only cared about doing their stuff and didn't reply to any questions. It didn't seem like they were causing trouble, so old Yan did not interfere directly. Jasper was also shocked. His head had turned very quickly. They shouldn't be causing trouble, however, what were they trying to do? A surprise. He could only shrug his shoulders helplessly as he did not know who had arranged it. However, the way they did things was rather exaggerated. No one gave an explanation nor said a word. They didn't answer anything even if others were asking them. All the guests were discussing the situation. Zhao Yushang and his group of little friends were also speechless. It was supposed to be their turn. What was this about? Could it be that there were people causing trouble? If that's the case, he couldn't just endure it. Yushang, could it be the ex-boyfriends of your sister? Scram. My sister has been in a church school since young and didn't have a boyfriend at all. This stage seems very professional. Those music instruments, take a look. They seem to be very high-end. Who are these people? The few of them were chattering softly and looking at the closely shut curtains and the temporary built small stage. What could it be? Yan Xiaoshu touched his forehead. Please don't let it be boss performing martial arts by himself. Although Wang Zheng's skills were undoubtable, fighting and causing a fuss on a wedding were still not good. Old Yan was already seriously waiting to act. If it was really someone causing trouble, he wanted to be the first one to rush ahead and beat that person up. However, a melodious music sounded at this moment. This is a simple, little love song, singing ups and downs in our heart. I think I'd be so happy when I feel your warmth. The atmosphere at my feet has changed. This is a simple, little love song. Everyone was shocked. Wasn't this the hot single by Lin Weiyan? Did they have to make such a huge hoo-ha to play a CD? Were they dumb? Wellington, your in-law's family is really interesting. Others invite stars, but all they do is play music for us. A local tyrant from Earth just couldn't make it to such an occasion. However, it is also true that even if they want to invite someone, I'm afraid no one would come. Singing about white doves in our hearts, I think I'd be fit well. When I sing the song, the time of youth is floating in the wind. You know, even if a heavy rain makes the whole city upside down. I'll give you a hug, I cannot stand to see your back. Writing down my sorrow, without you, I feel every second like years. At this very moment, the large curtains were pulled down suddenly. What appeared inside was Lin Weiyan. The whole crowd went silent. Almost everyone was rubbing their eyes vigorously. Illusion? Holographic images? OD*MN. My eyes are getting blind. This seemed to be real? Lin Weiyan. Even if the whole world is kidnapped by loneliness, I will also not run away. We cannot escape, as everyone gets old after all. Writing down a castle, which the time and the melody come across. Ah, a little girl let out a shrill scream. Her excited expression seemed to be flying out. Instantly, the whole crowd erupted. All the people stood up and rushed to the utmost front. This was crazy. This was simply like being in a dream, a real dream of many. Old Yan was also dumbfounded. As one from the older generation, he didn't pay much attention to the entertainment circle. However, even he knew about the person in front of him. How could she be here? Aslan's Princess Lin Weiyan. Wellington stared foolishly as the few business partners who were still complaining just a while ago rushed forward like a herd of rabbits. The next instant, he also rushed ahead. In his brain, only the princess had come. Zhao Yushang and his little pals were already completely stunned. At this moment, it was no longer about whether one was full of admiration or not. What sister-in-law had done was completely off everyone's expectations. Others still dared to say that he hadn't invited anyone. He had surprisingly invited the most unparalleled star that had the biggest name in the whole world. Zhao Ellen had already stood up. Her face was filled with tears. She held tightly to the arm of Yan Xiaoshu. She had studied in a church school, where management in the dormitory was extremely strict. Lin Weiyan was the idol she had always liked. She was really fond of her voice and her beauty. However, Lin Weiyan wasn't just a famous idol now. She was also the princess of Aslan, an existence that was different from anything else. Therefore, she had never dreamed of her being here. Yet at this very moment, at the wedding where she was the most blissful, just when she thought that she couldn't get any happier, she had received the blessing of Weiyan's singing voice. Moreover, it was live. What class was Lin Weiyan at? Even if you were the president of the Milky Way Alliance, you would also not be deserving. The whole hotel was shaken. The wedding at the rooftop was still rather lively initially. There were even some guests who were teasing those at the lower stories. After all, Yan Xiaoshu could be considered as neither famous nor obscure. There was never a distinction in the business circle and the entertainment circle. However, the wedding downstairs was indeed a little too simple. This had made the people at the top floors seem a lot more respectable. A local tyrant was a local tyrant after all. His foundations weren't that sufficient yet. What did you say? The Aslan princess is here. Absolutely true. Princess Weiyan is here to sing live. This is against all expectations. The respect she has given is beyond all imagination. Fish, fish. Tables and chairs were knocked all around as the crowd all flooded downwards. Just Lin Weiyan, 3 syllables, and that was enough to represent everything. It wasn't an exaggeration at all. This was what class was all about. Soon, the whole Moonlight City was shaken. As for the wedding on this side, because of Lin Huiyan's arrival, it had become a welcoming ocean. Zhao Yushang lifted his head and held his chest up. From here onwards, he wanted to see who still dared to look down on his sister-in-law. In these years, believing in his sister-in-law would bring immortality. After Huiyan had given her well wishes, she quickly disappeared under the protection of her bodyguards. When she left, she gave Wang Zheng a gaze. This surprise should be supportive enough, right? When we go back you better be obedient. Wang Zheng no longer cared about the future. No matter how she might torture him later, everything was worth it after seeing the happy looks on Yan Xiaoshu and Zhao Ellen. Brother, while living in this world, being happy and blissful are the most important things. Once the wedding ended, Wang Zheng and Lin Huiyan boarded Huiyan's princess ship and were on their return trip. Huiyan's external ambassador claimed that the princess's trip to the Moonlight City was to settle some personal things. During which, she suddenly wanted to give back to her fans by having such a performance. To sum it up, it was in the heat of the moment. After all, for the little princess, because she had recalled a scene in a movie, she decided to gift a surprise by barging into a wedding. As for whether the public would believe it or not, it wasn't important. Things within the entertainment circle were partly real and partly fake after all. On the spaceship, Huiyan was completely at ease and rather happy. I want some fruit juice. Student Wang immediately went to get fruit juice. That princess drank a mouthful and her eyes started to turn. I want some coffee. My arms are a little sore. My shoulders feel a little tired. Student Wang was frantically busy, however, he was willing to take such suffering. There's no problem to it. You could try all you want to trouble me, but I'm perfectly composed. Everything was easy to talk about since the main matter was settled. The Skylink rang. It was from Aina. Lin Huiyan immediately stood up and spat her little tongue out. Shush, it's over. Sister will definitely scold me. Ah, my dearest sister, what's the issue? Huiyan opened her eyes wide like an innocent rabbit. Aina didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This brat could really cause trouble. You are asking me what the issue is. I'm asking why you disappeared suddenly. This is such a huge thing, and you didn't say a word. Sister, it's actually nothing much. I just wished to head out and move around. I didn't do anything. Is it? Aina seemed to be smiling but wasn't. Wang Zheng felt that he had to be honest. No matter what, he couldn't let Lin Huiyan take the blame. He coughed a few times and said, Aina, student. The truth is that it was me who asked Huiyan for a favor. This is something very important to me. I'm sorry that I have caused you trouble. It was indeed rather troublesome. Aina looked at Wang Zheng and turned to look at Huiyan again. This brat seemed to listen and act according to whatever Wang Zheng said. This wasn't a good sign. However, this person was still rather responsible and didn't evade the issue. Student Wang Zheng, these types of things will bring Huiyan a lot of pressure. I hope that there won't be a second time, said Aina. She had intended to speak a few more lines but just couldn't say it despite the words already at the tip of mouth. Wang Zheng smiled faintly. Huiyan and I are friends. We have become friends not because she is a princess but because she is Lin Huiyan. I'm really grateful that she could help me in this. Perhaps in the eyes of others this might seem like a small thing but it is very important to me. If Huiyan were to encounter any accidents, he would also take action. Even though Huiyan might not face such a situation, this wasn't a trade. Looking at the forceful and convicted Wang Zheng, Aina was stunned and couldn't say another line. Lin Huiyan, who was at a corner, appeared to be satisfied and smiling very happily. Friend, can one from the royal family really have true friends? Aina didn't know, but when she saw the smile on Huiyan, she also smiled. All right then, I will settle the rest. I have also applied for leave on your behalf. However, you all have to be back on time and cannot delay any further. Sister, you are the best. I love you the most. We are on our way back now. Huiyan smiled and sent a flying kiss over. After switching off the Skylink, Huiyan heaved a huge sigh of relief. As long as her sister was standing on her side, everything would be fine. Brother Wang Zheng, you are still the one who has the solution. I have never seen my sister concede so easily. Huiyan said as she clapped. Although she couldn't remember, it seemed that her sister was still stifled by brother Wang Zheng. It's so fun. Wang Jung smiled faintly and said, I have really troubled you this time. Didn't you say we are friends? Why are you still so courteous? I'm not happy. Wei Yan pouted her little lips. What do I need to do to make you happy then, my Princess Highness? Laughed Wang Jung. Wei Yan's large eyes turned and she said, you have to sing with me. I also want to play cards. I still want. Wang Jung really didn't know that Wei Yan had so many things that she wanted to do. Some of the things might be so easy for a normal person, but to her, it seems so far and unreachable. They had 3 days of time anyway. No matter what, Wang Jung would have to play with Wei Yan to their content. Angela had already settled and arranged the other things. Wei Yan, who was exhausted from playing, had also fallen asleep. Angela rarely saw the princess sleeping so sweetly and happily. Wei Yan was even laughing when she had already fallen asleep. Wang Jung didn't go to sleep. He still had to do 2 hours of training. The conditions on the spaceship were very good. Footsteps sounded. Wang Jung was still doing push-ups. The strength and flexibility of the muscles were equally important. This kind of cell activity training had to be maintained in order to maintain the best condition. From the endless battle, Wang Jung started to feel the importance of mastering more battle techniques. When facing the tentacles Zerg, a lot of his battle styles were completely useless. Leaning landslide and high-frequency steps couldn't be used at all when facing the tentacles Zerg. No matter if it was because of the evolution of the Zerg or what, this was something he had to face. Through more mastery and integrating it into the soul with battles, it would become abilities that he could use as he wished. Angela didn't say a word too and just watched Wang Jung doing his training. The two of them could also be considered to be old and familiar friends. Angela rarely saw anyone as hardworking as Wang Jung, who also never slacked off. His body and mental conditions were kept at tip-top all the time. This was something that was rarely seen even in professional soldiers and special agents. Moreover, this guy was still very young and should be 20 this year. Sometimes, Angela just didn't know what were the objectives of Wang Jung. As one who knew what happened internally, Angela was really feeling a little lost. No matter if it was Aina or Lin Wei Yan, if Wang Jung was able to hold on to one, many could say that he could become rich overnight. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as a sparrow becoming a phoenix. However, only Angela knew that he did not have such thoughts. Just like Wei Yan Highness might not have noticed it herself, the truth was that she probably had some good feelings about Wang Jung subconsciously. At this moment, if Wang Jung were to make use of her, others wouldn't be able to do anything to stop him. However, Wang Jung's feelings for her were more of that of care and doting and not any other factors. This seemed a little impossible in the eyes of Angela. One should know that the difficulty for Wang Jung to be with Wei Yan would be slightly lower than for him to be with Aina. As the second princess, she was high and noble. However, she wouldn't affect the rule of the country. On the other hand, Aina was different. Frankly speaking, even if something were to happen between the two of them, there would be no chance at all in the end. No matter if Aina still remembered or had forgotten, the truth was, forgetting about it was a form of relief for her. It was the same for her and for Wang Jung. This was also probably why Wang Jung wasn't willing to go and awakened Aina's memories. This man was actually acceptable. Angela didn't feel that Wang Jung was like a saint. He definitely had his own desires and things he chased after. However, this person had his bottom line and cared a lot about relationships and brotherhood. He had gone all the way and expended so much effort just to attend his good friend's wedding. In the eyes of others, it might seem like nothing important. It was the same to just send a congratulatory video. However, living on, the important thing was the process. For that memory, being there was important. Wang Jung, have you ever considered joining the Aslan Empire? Asked Angela suddenly. Wang Jung smiled slightly. I will not. Angela nodded. I should have seen it coming. Although I'm not too fond of you, I still respect your ability. I'm curious as to where you will end up as well. I'll take each step as it comes. Wang Jung continued training, and Angela did not disturb him further. She shook her head and left. She did not like Wang Jung because he complicated her work terribly, but personally, she admired him. He was self-confident without being conceited, determined but not stubborn, and not someone who would turn to rage and despair. He was not bad company for the princess, as things went. In this 3-day trip, Lin Weiyan started to play with more abandon, and Wang Zheng tried his best to suit her. Weiyan learned training from Wang Zheng, and Wang Zheng was also forced to sing. Compared to Weiyan, his voice was out of tune, but edged hers in emotional expressivity. The spaceship returned to Roland Garros at the fastest speed, and Wang Zheng could not repress a sigh. This was unbelievable, something that only the Aslan royalty could accomplish. The might of the Aslan Empire was definitely not merely what was denoted on paper. Perhaps other nations were developing at a rapid rate, but concretely they could not hope to compare. After returning to college, Aina had not said much about that matter to Wang Zheng. This was Aina's personality. She would not pursue such matters, but this did leave Wang Zheng a little wistful. When he returned, he immediately threw himself into training against the tentacled Zerg. What was fortunate was that Lai Xin had accepted his invitation, but Lai Xin had clearly stated that cooperation would be limited to the business of the tentacled Zerg. Wang Zheng honestly had no idea why Lai Xin was behaving this way, but to each their choices. Perhaps Lear's approach was a better fit for her, but they really needed her abilities on this matter. Lai Xin, Achilles, Zhang Shan, Vincent, Takumi, Snowli. Against such monsters, it was not simply a matter of, the more the merrier. If one could not keep up with the battle team pace, they would not only be ineffective, but also become an impediment. Wang Zheng displayed what he had prepared on the Skylink. The tentacled monsters' movements revolve around straight lines. If they are forced to arc, they have to reduce their speed drastically. The other main movement they use is in an intersecting rhombus. Intersecting rhombus? Zhang Shan asked. That's right. About 13 different hybrids. Basically they do not deviate from these variations. Besides this, the tentacles attack with a lot of angle control, but this has its limits. Out of the 8 tentacles, when more than half attack at the same time, the response time decreases by a certain degree. 2 vital parts. One is the laser eyes, the other is the belly. The laser eyes are also its main attack point, and difficult to penetrate. My plan is for 5 people to break the defenses. 1 main, Snowli. You made your name as a sniper after all. Don't worry about what happens before. You just concern yourself with the crucial blow. Snowli nodded. Takumi chuckled. Wang Zheng, seems like you already have some thoughts on the issue. Let's get to it then. The school has been taking this very seriously, but no one has done it up till now. Of course, this included Imperial Glory, Asura, Dynasty, and other big names, and it had been proven that numbers meant nothing. This isn't enough. I need everyone to be able to keep up with my movements. A simultaneous attack must outpace the Zerg limits. Only then can Lai Xin deliver the crucial attack. Wang Zheng said. Takumi, your tank is reliable enough to take hits from me. At the same time, you need to watch out for yourself. Vincent, your gold wheel mecha must achieve dual wielding. Fake dual wielding just won't cut it. Takumi was taken aback, but nodded. His mouth twitched with interest. Vincent was surprised too. He understood what true dual wielding entailed. This was something that others did not realize, but Vincent's gold wheel mecha indeed lacked a little firepower. Zhang Shan, you must be capable of executing 3 consecutive warps, and quicker. In one burst, you need to create a disruption for the Zerg's movements. Snowli, you need to extend the time of your frost ability. The moment you gather your ability X, the Zerg will immediately sense it. We won't be able to get results that way. That's why you need to be able to gather and release it in an instant. Wang Zheng said. The core of this battle plan is that we cannot give the Zerg any window for escape. Once it escapes, the plan will crumble. Do Zerg run away? Zhang Shan asked. The buggers charged and killed blindly. Did the word, escape, even apply? All sentient creatures will. This is very clear for the Abyss Zerg. Of course, even Abyss Zerg have their limits. When they act individually, they have such self-protection instincts. Of course, when the Overmind is present, such instincts do not appear. Wang Zheng said. His understanding of the Zerg was only a little less thorough than Butcher and the rest. Wang Zheng's own comprehensive understanding of the Zerg had also developed through his exchanges with Butcher, including the language and movements of the Zerg. What about me and Lai Xin? Achilles asked. Wang Zheng smiled. Both of their physical skills were mature, and they had their own styles and physical abilities. He need not say much. Take on the Zerg solo. Best if you can hold for more than 3 minutes. Achilles and Lai Shin looked at each other. Wang Zheng, you punk. You wouldn't be trying to do us in, would you? Lai Shin said with a hint of provocation. Such a battle would be a retreating defense. Being finished off by the Zerg was not a nice feeling. Wang Zheng laughed. Come on, would I? If you can't even hold them off for 3 minutes, then we can't even proceed. Can you? Lai Shin asked. Wang Zheng nodded. Time is not an issue, although I can't finish them off by myself. I don't believe you. Show us. If you can hold on for more than 5 minutes, then 3 will be no problem for me. Lai Shin said. Wang Zheng was a monster. Until now, she had no idea where he had come from. Perhaps the sage knew something, even if he was secretive about it. But as far as the Lai family knew, he had come from a common background. The only gap in this was the missing parents, who had disappeared without a trace. Wang Zheng did not hesitate. Sure, it will be a good opportunity for everyone to see the Zerg movement trajectories and habits. Its movements are not centered around the tentacles, but an expression change. Tentacles were soft weapons, close to a whip. Those who played with such weapons knew that the key was in the hand movements. Those who watched the whip itself were sure to be flayed to death. They did not waste more time with words. The purpose of today's meeting was to get the procedure down. The 4 regions had declared a prize. Whichever student could finish first would gain additional points. And if a battle team completed it, the school would also provide favorable conditions for the battle team, such as a better venue, more time and training privileges. This was exactly what every battle team needed. Wang Zheng and Saruman's snake battle team did not think too much about it. Wang Zheng was going to give a demonstration, and Ai Xiaolu and the rest tagged along as well. Saruman's snake's resources mostly came from Ai Xiaolu. But after all, this was a battle team, and they could not let Ai Xiaolu be the sole investor. They had to stick to some rules. Wang Zheng wanted to use this battle to spread Saruman Snake's reputation as more than just a lucky dark horse. At the same time, he hoped to get even more support from the school. Compared to battle teams like Asura and Imperial Glory, Saruman Snake battle team's conditions were considerably worse off. If they could not secure better conditions, then the talent would not be willing to join. Wang Zheng had already entered the arena to face the tentacle monster. Luckily, he had Yan Xiaosu's wedding as a welcome break. When he closed his eyes, he no longer saw tentacles. He no longer ate octopus now either, it was too sensitive. He was sanguine about the choice of mecha. He was familiar with the Zerg now. Different mechas simply meant different fighting styles. But if he wanted to demonstrate the Zerg unique features to the fullest, then the Phantom King and Wind God were more suitable choices. In this battle, the objective was not to go head-to-head with the Zerg, and mentally Wang Zheng was more relaxed. He chose Wind God. Saruman Snake's Wang Zheng is going to solo a tentacle monster? Seems that way. Just him alone. That guy likes to show off. It's impossible. Even Martsu couldn't do it. The closest bet would be Asura battle team, but they can't handle it either. It's hopeless. The worm is too agile. It's specialized to break down all defenses. Sometimes battle teammates even become burdens. Well, let's see how long this legendary leader can hold out for. Who knows, he might even win. If he can win solo, I'll call him father from now on. Don't even mention winning. If he can last for more than 5 minutes, I'll call him father. Saruman Snake battle team's go hard tactics don't have the necessary qualities, and Abyss Zerg don't make mistakes. Battle power depended on physical and mental condition to a large extent, but the Zerg were always consistent. They were neither susceptible to vanity nor carelessness. The ferocious attack power that this Abyss Zerg displayed in fights gave one the chills. The image of tentacles boring into a mecha left a deep impression on the imagination. Even a simulated battle was enough to give one nightmares. Wind God entered. The deep abyss terrain was completely unsuited for humankind's mecha to fight in, especially in small skirmishes. Wang Zheng was the king of the newcomers, the leader of Saruman Snake battle team. Presently, he was a hot favorite in the greatest king competition. Interest in him was definitely high. Many did not regard him as a king at present, but only because he still needed to deepen his influence and networks. He was definitely the king of the newcomers. By right, people like Wang Zheng were precisely the ones who should watch their own reputation. Those who were regarded as kings had the bandwidth to make occasional mistakes without being too affected. The die-hard fans would even find some excuse to explain the slip-ups. But if a newcomer king faltered, the blow to their reputation would be huge. Those who made their name for themselves, like Yang Pan, often did so because of their go-getter personality. Part of the reason was that Yang Pan was leaving soon, and therefore did not attract much attention anymore. As a result, the accumulated attention had been redirected to Wang Zheng. In just a short while, the news had spread throughout the school grapevine. Wang Zheng was going to take on a deep abyss tentacle monster alone. Saruman's snake battle team was not too bothered by this. Ai Xiaolu had merely notified those who were invested. This was Wang Zheng's first major demonstration. Wind God entered, and the deep abyss tentacle monster was burrowing over. This ground-type tentacle monster's mid-air reach was not high, and was of a short stature as well, but it was especially savage. The moment it realized that the opponent was outnumbered or weaker, it would unscrupulously throw everything it had to tear its opponent to bits. As a result, everyone was reluctant to face such a monster alone in the simulated battles. A paper mecha like Wind God would have its fragile energy shield smashed in the blink of an eye, and the magnetic energy source that gave Wind God its fame was mostly ineffectual when facing the tentacle monster. Many times, the pilot had already died by the time the magnetic energy kicked in. The tentacle monster loved this. After a group battle, it would shred the armor last. Facing such a Zerg again, Wang Zheng felt something was amiss. This Zerg's aura was not as strong compared to the one in the Rubik's Cube. It looked similar, but there was a slight difference. Besides the Queen Zerg, perhaps only Wang Zheng would be able to sense it. I'm interested to see exactly what kind of monster the Earthling's Wind God is. Haha, I want to see how he plans to deal with the first round of onslaught by the Tentacle Zerg. But contrary to their expectations, the Tentacle Zerg cautiously climbed out. The ferocious attacking posture had quickly shriveled up, and the way the tentacles waved displayed a strong fear. Wang Zheng's Wind God unsheathed its titanium blade. His body and mind were already completely adjusted to deal with Tentacle Zerg. He would never display emotion again. This was something that only humans could do, a forceful adaptation. As long as they did not die, they could use any rhythm. Wind God advanced step by step towards the Tentacle Zerg, the engine maintaining its normal output. But a strange scene was unfolding. As Wind God advanced, the Tentacle Zerg was actually slowly retreating. Zhang Shan and the rest were stunned. How could this happen? From the beginning, this crazy Zerg had been biting and chomping. For the Zergs to be afraid was unheard of. Of course, this Zerg was not afraid, but had sensed a dangerous aura. It sensed a trap, but there was only one mecha fighter. In truth, the Saruman snake battle team members were nonplussed. The fangs that covered the Zerg's mouth were enormous. This was a deterrent, used to scare off formidable enemies. The Zerg sensed a dangerous aura emanating from Wang Zheng. Just the overwhelming and unshakable confidence alone was enough. Deep Abyss Zerg, which had survived for so long based on their innate abilities, were especially sensitive to auras. Wang Zheng was completely desensitized to this. The telling move of Zergs was different from humans. Unless there was something to be protected, like the Queen Zerg, the Zerg's battle capabilities were extremely predictable. Wang Zheng might even know some of the Zerg's moves better than its own mother did. In an instant, the Zerg burrowed towards him. At that moment, some of those who were still in class had been notified by their friends via Skylink, and a wave of surreptitious streaming spread across the school campus. D*MN, what the hell is going on? Solo facing a Zerg, and to actually intimidate it enough to burrow him. What was happening? Wang Zheng was not in the least bit gratified. Such honor was hollow. The Zerg could indeed sense an uncontrollable murderous intent emanating from his body, but it did not mean he could slay the Zerg. Shing, the ground that Wind God stood on trembled slightly, and Wind God took to the air, its titanium blade flashing in an arc before cleaving down. In the same instant, the tentacle Zerg exploded from the ground, curled up. Countless fighters had fallen to this move alone, ground to smithereens. Those who had been on the receiving end before knew that this move was extremely sudden, and was packed with an intense kinetic energy. Save heavy armor, Being shaken to the point of vomiting blood was already getting off easy. But Wind God's titanium blade connected cleanly with the shell, sending sparks flying. But this was just the beginning. In an instant, the curled-up Zerg flung itself outwards, the 8 claws flashing out towards Wind God. This was the second barrage. Even if someone could avoid the first attack, this lightning attack enclosed one like a net, and was equally fatal. Shing shing shing, the magnetic energy source flew out, but Wang Zheng did not fly towards the magnetic energy source. Instead, he forced the mecha forward, charging towards the mouth of the Zerg. When the Zerg was in the midst of such an attack, it could not use its mouth cannon to attack. Immediately, the Zerg retracted 4 of its tentacles to defend. Ting 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 ting. The titanium blade twisted and flashed, instantly batting aside 4 of the tentacles trying to stop it. A hard parry was useless, let alone trying to cut it. Against such things, one had to redirect the momentum, but one had to be fast. Wang Zheng was already approaching the mouth, and the Zerg's fangs retreated readily. Wang Zheng sighed inwardly. It could not be helped. The magnetic energy source answered, flying out suddenly. The Zerg turned half a somersault, revealing its back. At the same time, the 8 tentacles again formed a surrounding wall, but Wang Zheng had already flown out, batting away 2 tentacles that were trying to stop him. Shing shing, 2 consecutive movements. Almost in the same instant that it landed, Wind God flew towards the Zerg directly. This speed was almost as fast as Zhang Shan's warp. Uppercut. Boom, the tentacle Zerg was sent flying, but by the time Wang Zheng tried another attack, the Zerg immediately burrowed down again. The entire crowd was silent. F***CK, his attack speed and reaction time were unnatural. From the simulation's release up till now, no one had ever made it this far. Boom, the Zerg ferociously tunneled up again. The Zerg had clearly been beaten to the point where it was not thinking clearly. In contrast, Wang Zheng was very calm. The magnetic energy source instantly drew him away, but he did not engage immediately. This test was useless, he had to clash directly. Wind God executed all kinds of weaving movements within the encirclement of the 8 tentacles. Wang Zheng was well versed with the moment patterns of the Zergs. Many were irrationally afraid of these soft weapons, and wasted precious reaction time on judging the trajectory. Once exposed, each movement could be easily predicted. Furthermore, soft weapons had their limits, because the Zerg itself had to avoid getting tangled up. The fact that no Zerg had ever tied itself into a knot was evidence that there was a limit to it. Anything that existed had its rules, and no rule escaped Wang Zheng's analytic abilities. Boom boom boom, the titanium blade danced. The counter-attacking blade was completely defensive. This was also the best method. Wang Zheng knew that he must close in order to deal with the Zerg. What he had to watch out for was a certain spot where the Zerg had a sure win angle, where he would die without question. But as long as he avoided this spot, the Zerg would not be able to finish him off. And Wang Zheng's problem was that the Zerg had a sure win spot, which constantly appeared. Although he had a high possibility of avoiding it, but he could not find its counterpart, his own sure win angle. This was something that one person in one mecha would not be able to achieve. His present mastery of the mecha abilities was still not perfect. Wang Zheng avoided the Zerg's attack again, and Wind God kicked out at the Zerg, although he did not press the attack. This was a trap. Such an attack was ineffective against the Zergs. The magnetic energy source kicked in, and he left in a flash. As expected, the Zerg rolled over after the kick, and immediately pounced again. Boom, the earth split, and the Zerg disappeared again. Wang Zheng's Wind God stood silently, but the whole school was shocked. Was he really doing this? This Zerg that slaughtered people without a thought? Zhang Shan was spluttering. He finally understood that he and Wang Zheng were using completely different mecha. Only in Wang Zheng's hands could the mecha truly deserve the name of Wind God. Godlike control, flitting about like the wind. If Wang Zheng became a scout, his opponents would definitely be extremely afraid. Boom, the Zerg was on the offense again, but Wang Zheng seemed to be able to see the future. He accurately judged the landing point, and was even able to predict the following attack pattern. Wang Zheng's judgment was based on the movement of the Zerg's fangs. This was a detail that the Zerg was unable to change. After countless attempts, The Zerg would definitely expose this. But such a detail was often noted in passing, but unable to be applied. In the heat of a real battle, one barely had time to react, unless it became instinct. The hellish feeling left even Wang Zheng repulsed. But in exchange, one could move freely in battle. The Zerg was hapless against Wang Zheng's Wind God. The Wind God passed through the tentacle Zerg's attacks, at times even cutting at it or kicking it. But the Wind God's battle power was clearly insufficient to finish it off. Although the Zerg was frenzied, but its emotional response was relatively muted, which meant that it would not display mindless clawing. Just like that, the two exchanged blows for over half an hour. Wang Zheng's stamina was holding up well. The primordial regression technique was executed well, and because he had no chance, his control was also fairly good. There was no end to this approach, but Wang Zheng knew that at the end, the Zerg held the advantage. He had tested this before, and the one who perished was inevitably the human. But the system halted the battle, because the time allocated at the start had been half an hour. For anyone else, the battle would have ended before then already. Butcher was watching intently from the lab. He knew what Wang Zheng lacked, perhaps he did not even need a battle team. Perhaps he stood a chance of accomplishing it regardless.